King Maori. Maori. King Maori. By Bob Shea. 3 women were standing around a golf cart talking. Louise Tillis, Gada Amir, and I Zaki, when Martha Middleton pulled up alongside them in her own cart. "Are we ready, girls?" she said. "It's about time," they all answered. Tilly got into Martha's golf cart while the other 2 got into their own cart, and they started off for a pleasant day of golfing. Louise Tillis, Tilly for short, and Martha Middleton weren't the golfers their 2 friends were, who had already moved on towards the next hole a little ahead of them. So Martha and Tilly got into their golf cart and started off towards their friends, but somehow they took a wrong turn and things began to look less and less familiar. "What a strange part of the golf course," said Tilly. "Yeah," said Martha, "a very strange place." Suddenly it appeared like they were back in the Middle Ages. They were driving by serfs working the fields. There was a damsel in distress who was being saved by a knight, and a dragon who was playing along with the knight with the ruse, pretending to let the knight slay him. They saw many strange and unfamiliar things along the side of the road as they searched for a sign or a familiar marking. "What's happened to the golf course?" asked Tilly. Martha didn't answer. She was awestruck. Ahead they saw a castle and thought that they might get some answers there, so they beelined it towards the castle gates. Martha beeped the golf cart's horn, and the drawbridge was lowered. Hesitantly, they drove in. Once inside, they were met by a man who identified himself as King Maori, and he was with the woman whom he said was Queen Lania Nia. With a thunderous voice, he says, "Who are you, and what brings you to these parts? What type of carriage is this? Are you gods, or have you come down from Mount Olympus on your chariot?" asked the queen. "To what do we owe the pleasure of your visit?" asked a man who appeared to be the king's advisor. "Of course we are not gods. We are 2 girls from the States, here on vacation, who were just out golfing with our friends. This vehicle is a golf cart that helps us get around the golf course." "Although you seem like wonderful people, we did not intentionally come here," said Martha. "We just took a wrong turn and got lost," said Tilly. "Can you direct us back to the 13th hole?" "The what?" asked King Maori. "The golf course," said Tilly. At this point, Tilly and Martha were starting to become frightened, and Tilly said, "Please help us. We're just trying to get back to the Brandeis golf course." "That name is unfamiliar to me. I know every inch of these lands, and I have never heard of a Brandeis golf course. What is a golf course, by the way?" "Golf course is a place where you play a game of golf, which is a game that consists of trying to hit a small ball into a hole in the ground." "Does anyone get killed or wounded?" asked the king. He didn't seem to understand the concept of a game of competition that did not include the risk of life and limb. "God, no, everyone has a fine time while having a friendly competition." "Are you a god?" asked Tilly. The king responded, "Oh, no, my dear. I'm not a god. I'm a mere mortal, but I appreciate you thinking I'm a god. Now tell me, what is this thing you call golf cart?" "Golf cart is simple. Little electrical vehicle that people use to get around the golf course. And it's illegal to use out on the streets." "The streets? Oh my, I'm afraid we don't know what the streets are. Could you mean roads?" "Yes. Well, we are pleased to have you as honored guests and visitors. Stay, and I will order the cooks to prepare a feast in your honor." "No," said Martha, "we must be going. Our friends must be getting worried about us." "Of course," said the king. "Your friends must be worried about you. I will have a horseman accompany you to the edge of the forest. It was a pleasure speaking with you and seeing your magical cart." Off to the side of the road, off to the side of the king, his advisor whispered something into a young man's ear. The young man lifted a small bag out of the golf cart, unseen. The bag contained a cleaning kit and a repair kit and a wire brush. then circled around and handed it to the king's advisor. So then, after saying their goodbyes, Martha and Tilly started up their golf cart and headed back across the fields, finding the serfs as strange as the serfs found them. Until the king's horseman said his farewell. Then, as the fog moved in behind them, they came to a sign pointing the way towards the 13th hole. By the time they reached the 13th hole, their friends had already left, so they continued on to the clubhouse, where Martha dropped off Tilly and went to return the golf cart, as Tilly went in to join Gadaramir and Aitenzaki in the dining area. Once out of sight, Martha got out of the golf cart and said to it, "I will see you back home." The golf cart took off. Now that that was done, Martha walked back to the clubhouse, where she joined the others in the dining area room where they were waiting for her. Believing that no one would believe them, Martha and Tilly had decided to keep the story of their great adventure to themselves, and just told their friends, "Oh, we got lost, sorry." That's all they said, without filling in any of the details and leaving their friends to wonder what really happened. Meanwhile, King Maori and his knights had followed the two strangers long after the king's horsemen had said farewell to them, but the girls' trail soon ended. They had simply vanished. The king stopped his pursuit and returned to the castle. Upon his return, the king's advisor showed him the cleaning bag repair kit and its contents, saying that it had fallen from the visitor's golf cart and he had retrieved it for them, but that it was too late. They had already departed, so he held it for the king. The king studied the contents of the bag in hopes of learning its secrets and gaining some advantage over his enemies. A divot tool and a wire brush, engineering marvels for the age, they seemed of intense interest to the king. "What are these things?" he thought to himself. "My God." After drinks, Martha had the valet bring the car around while waiting for their car. Tilly pointed at the sign that read, "Welcome to the King Maori Golf Course." "When did the golf course change its name to King Maori?" Tilly asked the valet. "Changed its name, madam? Never. It's been the King Maori Golf Course ever since I was a kid." "Oh, all right," said Tilly, restraining her panic. "Thank you." As they drove away, Tilly said, "Oh, my God, Martha, oh, my God. What are we going to do? We've actually changed history." "Live with it," said Martha. "Live with it," said Tilly. "Yes, we'll live with it," said Martha. So they did. Back home, Martha looked at the cat, the cat who was waiting for her in the hall, and said, "Pandora, my chariot and I had quite an adventure today," as she smiled at her broom and said, "Thank you." The cat, as usual, ignored them both. Part 2. "I knew it," said Tilly. "You're a witch." "No, not a witch," said Martha. "I am so much more than that. I am one of the immortal beings that live on Mount Olympus. But sure, think of me as a witch if you like. And Pandora the cat, well, she is also a witch," said Martha. "But my mother has forbidden Pandora from taking human form while we are here on Earth. My mother wants her battle ready at the drop of a hat and not distracted on her mission to protect and defend me." "On Earth?" said Tilly quizzically. "Yes, Martha, we live on Mount Olympus." "Okay, it's a place you can only get to through the fog. We live there and we watch the world we used to rule a long, long time ago. And that is our only distraction from our godly duties, our cosmic duties." "And that is enough?" asked Tilly. "Yes," said Martha, "for most of us it is. The others on Mount Olympus, well, they are content. It's a very pleasant life, but I wanted adventure. And so my mother has allowed me to come to Earth for 1 year to sow my wild oats and where was it? And that is enough for most of us. The others on Mount Olympus are content, but I wanted adventure, freedom. So my mother has allowed me to come to Earth for 1 year to sow my wild oats and then to decide if I'm ready for my duties as a god, or to drink from the wine of forgetfulness and live out the rest of my life here on Earth as a mortal. See, when we ruled your world, said Martha, we were very destructive and distracted rulers. The only thing the male gods cared about was their earthly pursuits and not their godly duties. So with a thought, the goddess made them all vanish, but she could not kill them. So she had them unknowingly drink from the wine of forgetfulness and live out the rest of their lives here on earth as mortals. She made them forget who they were, said Tilly. Yes, she had them drink from the wine of forgetfulness, said Martha, and now they live they live out their lives down here on earth, and when they die, they are simply reborn into a new body with no memory of the last one. It is an endless cycle of rebirth, death, and rebirth that they are all trapped in. So there are no men on Mount Olympus? Asked Tilly. Of course there are, said Martha, but they are men of our own creation. We will them into creation with a thought, and they are exactly as we will them to be. The gods we have banished, we miss them, we do, but not the destruction and mayhem that followed in their wake. You can tell the difference between one of the male gods and one of our creations quite easily. They do not have individual names. That would be ridiculous. Their name is either worker or servant. That was one of the most difficult things for me to learn to do here. When I first got here, I was calling human males by their individual names instead of by their function. Oh, yeah, said Tilly, that must have been a stretch. Martha smiled at Tilly and said, You are clever and wise, and I will never look upon mortals quite the same way again because of you. You mean at the end of your wild oats year, or is it when I grow old and die, while you stay young forever? Martha, how can you be so cruel? Asked Tilly. All I am saying is that I respect mortals more now because of you, stormed Marcia, but I will never understand you. You don't understand anything, said Tilly. Well, I guess I don't then, said Martha, and stormed off. Standing there alone, Tilly said softly, I don't want you to leave. I don't want to grow old and die. I don't want you watching me grow old. Why can't you understand anything? Martha thought back to her life as a princess, and about all of the time she had spent overlooking the pool that allows the gods to look down upon the world and watch the lives of mortals unfold. But she had such a strong attraction to experience life among the mortals. The queen could see it. She knew her daughter's heart was set on experiencing life among the mortals. So she granted her permission to spend 1 year on earth to sow her wild oats, but then she must choose either life on earth or immortality on Mount Olympus. 1 year. I will send the captain of my royal guard, Pandora, to watch over and protect you during your stay. She will be forbidden from taking on human form, and instead will live as a cat to guide, advise, and look after you. And I will also send your chariot with you so that you can return home at a moment's notice. And I have imbued it with the ability to transform into any inanimate object you wish. A broom when you want to fly, a car when you want to drive, a ship when you want to sail. That's as far as I've gotten so far. Thank you very much for listening.